Hello and welcome, Manisha Koirala and Fatima Patel. Thank you for being with me here this afternoon. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, and I think it's going to be a really exciting interview. I'm like really eager for our audience to know your story, especially Manisha. You've launched Fatima, the first Asian newspaper here in London. It's a big achievement, much needed. Finally, 2023 is the year we've got our Asian
Let me
newspaper.
just correct you. Don't say the first Asian paper because there's lots of other Asian papers.
Yeah, we don't want
the first free Asian
first
newspaper
free
for London.
Asian newspaper. Yeah, so no, that's very exciting. It's a big step. Thank you so much for bringing that to London, especially your roots are from Bradford, so branching out to London is a big deal. Manisha, yesterday at the launch event, we heard your inspirational story, which I wasn't actually aware of, and I think your story is very powerful, and it's so important for people to hear. Manisha, aapne jo hai, you've seen the peak of your Bollywood success as a Bollywood heroine. You know, आप आगे थी उस जमाना था पीछे, and आपने जो ये life की highest of highs देखी हैं, you know, the adulation, the people around you, the best of this world. फिर एक वक्त आपने खुद कहा था, एक ऐसा वक्त आया जिसमें the three major aspects of your life, जिसमें आपका career होता है, where you said the phone, you know, stopped ringing, when it came to your relationship, your marriage had broken down, and it came to your health, you were diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer.
Right.
So Manisha, you've also seen probably the lowest of lows as well when it came to life. There's a quote where it says, when you smile, the world smiles with you. When you cry alone.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, how does that resonate with your life? And so many people are going through tough times in their life, hard days, and it would be really nice for you to show them a way of how they can find courage through that day-to-day life the way you did.
So basically, you know, I spoke yesterday about an incident. I don't like to repeat a lot, but then I think it's important to send the message across. Was that when I was doing well, I had tons and tons of entourage of friends, and but when I was in hospital bed, there were very few of them, and in fact, people that I didn't even know came forward and helped and supported me. You know, sending me good advices, how to deal with cancer, what to eat, and sending me prayers and blessings. People that I did not know, and the people that I was expecting from, they weren't anywhere close to me.
Yeah.
You know, so what I take from that is that enjoy your time when you're high, but just be aware about, you know, who are your true friends, and would they be standing with you when you really need them, and things like that. You know, my cancer journey has taught me a lot of things. I also saw some, as I said, strangers coming forward and helping. You know, I'd give you an incident, one incident, that I had bald hair. I didn't have eyebrows. I didn't have lashes, nothing. And I used to wear a hoodie. And I used to be very ashamed because as an actor, you're meant to be looking glamorous.
And you took pride in, you know,
Yeah.
the way you looked. Yeah.
But when I used to look in the mirror after my cancer treatment, I looked like an alien to me. You know, it looked something else. So I used to always have these glasses, have a hoodie, and when I used to go for morning walks, so I would just be my head down and go for morning walk. There was a cycle wala crossing me, and and he said, "Hey, Manisha Koirala," and I just, who was that? You know, so instinctively you looked up, and he said, "Way to go, girl!"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Wow!" You know, there I was thinking that I'll be judged for my looks, and there's somebody who knew I was hiding, and he just basically wanted to encourage me, encourage my spirit. So there are people who are kind.
And that must mean a lot at that time.
Absolutely. You know, so it's not, the world is full of good people. and kind people.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
it's good to have faith क्योंकि कभी कभी आपके साथ जब बुरा होता है आप दुनिया को एक बुरे लेंस से देखने लग जाते हैं एक शक के साथ कि हर बंदे की intentions अच्छे नहीं है, but it's good to have those kind people around you to remind you there is kindness that still exists.
absolutely.
And Manisha, I'm dying to ask you this next question because I always thought that if I ever interview and ask you, and I want to tell you because it's from the bottom of my heart, I think that, in my opinion, and if someone disagrees with me, I don't believe them. I think the greatest song in Indian cinema is Satarangire. Honestly, it's so poetic. It goes through the 7 stages of love.
Yes.
The cinematography, the music, the melody, the lyrics. I think the longing and passion of Shah Rukh Khan has for you, and your natural beauty and your supernatural aura, Manisha, that you had in this film, in this song, it's unmatchable. It really is. When you were making this masterpiece, and honestly, this is really true, it's a masterpiece. Did you ever think back then when you were shooting? Because you didn't have that digital media कि एकदम आपको views पता चलेंगी इतना है, you know, response you get much later. Did you think you were making something this iconic and historical?
You know, we were loving every bit of it. We were loving. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. You know, and even then when we were working for that film, the thing is, working with good directors, they have great team. You know, and everybody's so involved, so passionate. We actors actually seen, but there's so many people behind camera, and everybody's contribution matters a lot. You know, and we kind of feed on each other's energies, and we all knew.
So you felt like there was something special in this film.
Absolutely,
this song,
yes.
music, you knew it as well. You were performing.
Absolutely.
And you must have not done anything like this before, Manisha, because just the way the choreography was for all the songs. And one thing was that you were so natural. Hardly any makeup, so natural. And to come.
But that's thanks to Mani Ratnam.
You think it's Mani Ratnam's
Yeah, I used
vision.
to hide and put makeup. He would see me through the camera and said, "Go remove your makeup." So that's thanks to him.
But your beauty was glorified. It was so natural and it was glorified. And I just think you could just see the longing in Shah Rukh's eyes and this attitude that you had, that you knew, you know, that you were the muse and the love of his life. It's just amazing. But the only thing I don't like about the whole song is that आपने जो बार है ना हाई कर दिया कि इस तरह मोहब्बत नहीं मिलेगी तो हमें चाहिए भी नहीं, और वो सतरंगी रे वाली मोहब्बत, वो जो चाहत है ना, और वो वाली सही जिंदगी में नहीं मिलेगी ना, अब वो एक एग्जाम्पल है कि उस तरह की चाहत चाहिए और मोहब्बत चाहिए. It's really amazing. And I think ये एक ऐसा आइकॉनिक गाना, एक आइकॉनिक ये फिल्म बनी है जिस will always live on. Manisha was actually speaking to a very prominent film director and producer from the Indian film industry. So I asked him, how would you like your legacy to be remembered? And he said, you know, I would love my legacy to be remembered through my songs and through my music. And I think you have the best songs. You have बाहों की दरमिया, एक लड़की को देखा तो ऐसा लगा, सतरंगी रे, like I said, दिल से. It's one of those songs that even if you don't follow Bollywood or watch their films or anything, you know these songs, you know? So how would you like your legacy to be remembered?
You know, I can't really answer that question, but I would want to be known that the few films that I do, I had many shades, and I portrayed different characters with 100% accuracy.
Yeah, no, you did.
I would like to achieve that.
And you had substance in all your roles, definitely. And now, 27 years ago, shall I say, Sanjay Leela Bansali launched his own career with you as his heroine with Khamoshi.
Right.
And now आप आएंगी हीरा मंडी में. हीरा मंडी जो है, संजय लीला बंसाली ने कहा है, it's the story of a courtesan that he's very intrigued by, and you see it in his films too. He does include it. Hira Mandi faces, this whole world faces harsh criticism from society, and even Hira Mandi placed in Lahore as well, Pakistan में, जिसमें लोगों को इसकी दुनिया के बारे में इतना पता नहीं है, बोलने के लिए judgment बहुत देते हैं. When you stepped onto the set of this film, obviously you got to know about it. आपने क्या सीखा ये दुनिया के बारे में जो आपको लगता है हमें as an audience जो नहीं पता, who are far removed from this world?
So I was educated while I was in the project. First of all, there's a vast difference between a prostitute and courtesans.
Yeah.
Courtesans are the epitome of culture, tradition, ada, a philosophy of life, and a lot of culture, classical music and dancing. And so it's the language, and everything. So it's all that beauty and the glorified beauty, um, but also they're human beings.
Yeah.
And
That's what people forget, don't they?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
forget,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of drama.
Yeah,
And there's a
brothel
lot of
politics.
yeah. So all that is there.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think Sanjay Leela Bhansali always portrays these stories beautifully and artistically.
Yes.
He's the best man to do it.
Yes.
So I think this is a great, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in this Hira Mandi project. And I think it's going to be really spectacular, actually, to have this series and to see this series. Manisha, I would also like to say, like you mentioned about ada, कि एक ada होती है. This could be controversial, but जब आपके जैसे जब आप हीरोइन थी जो एक अदा होती थी, maybe it's because of the directors or choreographers were different at that time. Now when you see like the new Bollywood, I feel like the ada and the innocence or ek hayasi jo ek thi, they don't have that as much, I would say, in today's day and age. Do you think it's because of the team? Do you think it's because of the zamana? Do you think it's just society is changing?
I think the society the cinema reflects the society.
Yeah.
So when the societies are changing, it's also cinema and the narratives are also changing. And it should be, we all try to be relatable to today's crowd. I study and try to understand what are the youngsters looking forward for. So you have to mold yourself according to the scenario.
Yeah.
So it's cinema reflects the society.
Yeah, no, definitely there's a change, but we always have the old songs to look to and see. And moving on to Fatima. Fatima, it's a pleasure to have you, and it's a pleasure that you've also brought this new newspaper to London. What was your vision for the Asian Standard here in London?
So my vision for the Asian, I mean, it's quite nicely leading on because just as Manish alluded to talking about what makes the young people tick, I think for me it's like, you'll know this, you're a British Asian born and raised here in the UK, and the newspapers that started back in the 80s, 90s, they did really, really well, and I'm so proud to be part of this industry. But they mainly catered for people like my parents or my grandparents who moved here, having gone through an education system from their home countries, but then came here to then establish a brand new life. So they still wanted that connect. We still want that connect, but on a different level. Our connect is more about films. We still want to connect with Bollywood. We still want to connect with the fashion, the food. But when it comes to everyday life, as in work, business, representation, having a voice, tackling inequalities, and all of that, I think we still do not have that voice, and we're not being represented correctly in media. We don't have those platforms. So that's what we want to do with the Asian Standard London. We've already done that quite successfully in the north, where we're able to talk about individual communities, their needs, their requirements, and even the way they think politically. How they're aligned. And I just feel that that's still missing in London, and London's got the larger South Asian population.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
and you can't box us all together into BAME, which is what the mainstream always refer to us as.
Yeah,
and we're not BAME.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we're different heritage.
Yeah, like all three of us are Asian, but from different heritage.
Yeah. And so, and not just from where we're from in the subcontinent, but even geographically. The north of England, we're quite different to the south of England, aren't we?
When I leave London, it's like when the accent changes, I feel like I'm in a new country. Especially if I go, I'm like,
I get that a lot with my Yorkshire accent.
And you're smiling and you ask me how we are. We're not used to this in London.
No, not at all.
Exactly. ये ज़्यादा friendly होते हैं अपनों.
यहाँ पे हंसते नहीं लोग.
जी. Yeah, that's a great observation.
Yes.
Mind your own business type के हैं लोग यहाँ पे.
Hopefully it's going to be infectious after today.
Yeah. नहीं कोई पूछने लग जाए हमें जीभ लगने लग जाते हैं. You've gone past hello.
Exactly.
And when we say hi, you're right doesn't always need to have an answer. It's not just hi, you're right. It's just hello. It's not. We're not actually asking.
No, exactly.
But sometimes we are. हमें वो calls ना समझें कि हम कोई परवाह नहीं हमें.
So that's what I want to do. And also, I think, it is also introducing Bollywood to a different audience.
Yeah.
Because a lot of British Asians do not, some people have not been exposed to Bollywood in terms of watching the films. A lot of my friends who were at at Parliament yesterday, who are not Asian, do watch Bollywood films now because they read our newspaper, because the news affects them too, not just Asian people, affects them because they might have an Asian neighbour,
of course,
or they might work with an Asian colleague,
Yep.
or they might be doing business with an Asian person. So even they're interested in our lives, they're interested in our culture, they're interested in our food, especially.
No, and they know, and they know our songs, and they know our prominent actors from the Indian film industry. No matter, even if they're not Asian, don't watch it, they do know. They do have, and that's all thanks to the media like yours. My last question to you, Fatima, is the importance of a hard copy, especially in today's digital media. How important do you think it is to have that newspaper? I remember there used to be a paper round. I think that's just, well, in my area, it's disappeared. The paper round, we don't get the hard copy anymore. So how important do you think it is just to have that hard copy of the Asian stand, not just digital all the time?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because obviously I raised it yesterday, but I think for me, I'm obviously the older generation, so I grew up with, and you're gonna laugh at me, but my mum and dad, they were business partners, and they had 2 newsagents. So you know what my job was as a young girl was, get out. You need to help do the newspaper round. You talk about the newspaper round. So I used to do newspaper rounds for my mum and dad for their shop. So my job was, newspapers used to come. I used to have to unpack them and put them on the shelf. And obviously every newspaper, whether it was the Daily Mail, the Mirror, they all had the same story, but everybody's angle of the story was different. And I was always subconsciously fascinated by that.
It's your true calling then,
It
isn't
was,
it?
I never realised.
Yeah.
But typically my parents said, you must get a job that pays well. Journalism doesn't. So I went into IT. Thank goodness I defaulted back to my original calling. So so I think for me, sorry, what was the question again?
About hard copy, the importance of hard copy.
So I think for me, because I've grown up with that and I've seen the physical copies, that was always important. And I think the industry changed because social media came into play, and also more so during COVID. But then we also came to a culture where there was lots of fake news, lots of misrepresentation. And so where do people go for their credible news? But also, I think a printed copy still has value. I mean, just the other week, we had these Young Youth Awards in Yorkshire, and all the finalists were listed. So we put the story online, and we got loads of calls from the young people saying, we know the story's online, but can you let us know if it's going to be in print, because we want to get a copy. Because that's that record of their, work and their news and their profile. But also, they'll send it back home to their families. So the newspaper ends up in India or Pakistan or Bangladesh as well, because look at us, we're in the newspaper. Whereas online, it's a link and sort of gets lost, doesn't it? So it's still quite special.
Definitely.
For that reason. And so we definitely want to continue promoting to be able to read a hard copy newspaper. And also, you never know with the digital world, it could collapse on us at any time.
You never know. Like with the pandemic, taught us that.
Correct. Exactly.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, Manisha Koirala. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been a memorable interview. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.